What's going on, YouTube, and welcome on in. Today's video, we're going to do quick, straight to the point, talking about Dizzy, Elphelt, and Baiken, the Guilty Gear ladies. I'll just give you the quick nitty-gritty on where they're used, how good they are. Now remember, they're all limited, including Jacko, who's coming out in a few days, so if you can, try to pick up all of them for limited collection, for future proofing. But all three of them, I'll just go ahead and tell y'all right now, none of the three are must-haves, but I keep getting asked, Car, are they worth pulling? Where do I use this? Where do I use that? And the artifacts as well. Necro and Undine on Dizzy, Ms.Confille on Elphelt, and Torn Sleeve on Baiken. We'll talk all about that. I'll keep it brief. We're not going to include Jacko, who's coming out Wednesday evening, because we don't know. She's not in the game yet, so I can't really give you all my take, but she is looking to be the strongest of the bunch, and her multipliers were data mined as well, and they're looking very solid too, so make sure you set aside some bookmarks. But I won't be guiding y'all, at least for now, maybe when she comes out, on whether or not you should summon. But these three, I can tell you all about them, so stay tuned. Alrighty, y'all, let's go ahead and look at each individual one. I'm not going to focus on like individual gear stats and builds, and I'll just talk generally how good they are for newer players, returning players that are, you know, getting the Guilty Gear units for the first time, or maybe you missed out on the last run. But let's just look at them one by one, and then I'll recap all three and rank them in order, including their artifacts, which ones you should prioritize, which ones are more skippable than others. But one more time, guys, all of them are limited. All the artifacts are limited, so in case they get buffed, in case Guilty Gear doesn't get run again next year, make sure you guys try to maybe pick up all of them if possible. But I'll tell you right now, I skipped on both the Dizzy artifact and the Baiken artifact for the third time now. This is the third run. I don't really plan to get them still. So if you're okay and with possibly Smilegate buffing some of the artifacts and you not having them, you can definitely skip them because I haven't needed them. They haven't been good. We'll get more into that in a little bit. But first, let's go ahead and start with Dizzy. I don't have her built right now, guys, but I can tell you all about her. She has some random gear on, but I haven't used her in a minute. However, I can tell you all this. Dizzy, I think, is the best of the three. And don't worry, at the end, I'll recap it again for those of you that want to just skim through fast. But Dizzy is probably the best overall for newer players. Very, very strong still for PvE. Super good in areas like Abyss. And for PvP specifically, guys, you're about to see some legend account reviews that I'm bringing out soon. Some players still think Dizzy, and not just think, they use her, and she can still be very, very strong all the way up in Legend Real-Time Arena. For normal Arena and Guild Wars, it really depends on if your opponent has like immunity or not, what kind of stuff they're bringing. Dizzy has kind of, she used to be one of the, on her first release, one of the most terrifying units, unbalanced units in the game. But as time progressed, as people learn to fight her, as units came out that can combat her a little bit better, as more people put on immunity set, a lot of times her initial skill 3 just wasn't as impactful. However, I do think building her with some effect resist and maybe even some attack, guys, her scaling is actually pretty good. She can definitely carry some matches, so don't let that, she's more than just the meme that every unit can be good. Dizzy is more than that. She's a solid unit. There's just other units right now, maybe like Archdemon, Mercedes, and Solitaria, perhaps, that are kind of like similar mages. They might share artifacts like the Fairy Tale for a Nightmare. Let me go and find that for y'all real fast. This artifact, for example, we can put on like Solitaria or Archdemon here, and they sort of fulfill the same kind of debuffing role like those AoE debuff mages, and they kind of replace Dizzy. But Dizzy can be good if you don't have those other two, and she also might have a spot on her own because there are still things she does that are unique, including like the big stun chance on the S1, all AoE. I know Solitaria after her buffs can do a lot too, but Dizzy's still very strong in her own right. But don't forget, insane PvE early potential, probably the best of the three in RTA for sure, not including Jacko. Okay, so let's go ahead and look at her artifact after that, guys. Remember, I ranked Dizzy #1 in terms of if you had to pick one or the others. She does most for PvE and specifically PvP as well for RTA. We're not going to talk too much about Arena and Guild Wars, where the other two could potentially also shine. Oops, wrong area. Sorry, guys. Let's go ahead and look at the artifact journal real fast because I don't own it. But it is called Necro and Undine, however you want to pronounce that. But this artifact, guys, it looks good on paper. A lot of people like to theorycraft. If you like to just kind of experiment and have fun, especially in PvE areas, I'm sure it has some use here and there. But overall, there's just way better mage artifacts in the game. Look, think of how all the abyssal crown, all the oppressive mage artifacts there are, or even just things like book for Dizzy. She can make great use of book sometimes. It's just not really needed. I haven't had it for 3 years, like I mentioned. I asked a lot of endgame players as well. No one has really needed it outside of just having fun. So you can definitely skip this, but don't forget, if you want to collect it, if you're worried it might get buffed later, it is limited, so you may want to consider it. But I don't have it. I don't plan to pick it up. I'm okay missing out on it. All right, let's move on to the next unit, guys. I want to keep it quick and brief. Next up, we have Baiken, who I'm going to rate the second most priority hero. I do usually have a neck on her. Let's go ahead and put that on real fast while we chat. I believe it's a crit damage neck just for PvE purposes, and that's her main gimmick right now, guys, is to be used in Banshee. Now, this is where you want to know if you want to summon Baiken besides looks, guys. If you're a waifu collector, if you play by looks, then get whoever the heck you want. All three characters are amazing, especially looks wise. But if we're talking gameplay purposes, Baiken's main purpose, not really for PvP. I'm sure some people use her there occasionally, but her real shining moment is for Banshee. Hunt specifically, some Expedition as well. She can be very good. But the main thing is Banshee, guys. Those of you that are newer that want to break into Banshee and haven't farmed Rage Set. I know I have Rage Set on her. That's kind of just to flex and make things even faster. But I used to not use Rage Set, and she's the queen of enabling early one-shot Banshee. She's the easiest at it. There's a million other options. Straws, the 2-star mouse, Valen, Ram. But all of those, with the exception of maybe Ram, need a Rage Set because Baiken has 2 skills, or excuse me, 2 turns on auto that the AI will use, and you can double dip on Joker, double dip on the damage, and so she is by far the easiest. You don't even need max molas. You can get away with less depending on your gear. If you don't have Rage Set, you might need to max out, but I'm pretty sure in the beginning, I didn't even need to max it out with I believe it was an attack set I used to use on her, or a destruction set. Something like that, and you just really capitalize on the 2 hits for the Daydream Joker extra damage, and she's the queen of early game one-shot Banshee. You really want to get into Banshee one-shotting. I have a video coming out very soon talking about being a Banshee main, guys. It's becoming more relevant. There's players playing counter, destruction, resist, lifesteal, and it can be just as viable as Wyvern, maining Wyvern speed sets. It's just a little bit of a different playstyle, lifestyle, and a little bit harder. You have to work a little bit harder than your Wyvern competitors. However, it's very good, and if you want to do Banshee stuff, you got to get Baiken, unless you already plan or already have like a Ram, a Strays, a Pavel, or Valen, Euphine. Something on a good Rage Set can do it, but if you want to break into Banshee the easiest possible, the less gear and mole investment possible, she's the queen at it. So consider picking her up, and she's my favorite looking of the bunch. Looks alone, I would probably go ahead and pick her up. Now let's go ahead and look at our artifact, guys, and I think I can just man, I'm clicking all over the place. I think I can just click here and get her artifact from this page so we can talk about it together. But Torn Sleeve, this artifact, I think, has more use than Dizzy's Necro and Undine right here. But it's still, I haven't had this one as well. Even when Wyvern first came out, Wyvern 13 first came out, and debuffs were super important, I just made use of bringing other stuff like Terranor Guard, Clarissa, Alexa, things like that. And I didn't take advantage of the extra bleeds. I just brought other debuffs if possible. So if you're already managing debuffs, okay, there's no need for this artifact. It can be good, but keep in mind, guys, that it is one of those whale artifacts, meaning unless you max it, if you only pick up 1 copy and you plus 15 it, it'll be 75% chance, meaning you have a 25% chance of it not having any effect. So you will want to max it out if you want consistency, and in our hunt runs, that's all we care about is consistency. And keep in mind, I'm talking about Wyvern. I know I just talked about Banshee, Baiken being a Banshee unit, but this artifact would be used for Wyvern, because if you didn't know, Wyvern 13 requires you to have at least 2 debuffs so that it targets the main front row tank. Sorry, a lot of info for y'all if you're newer, but it's okay. You'll be fine. So Torn Sleeve not mandatory at all. We can use other sort of debuffs. Mui has a bunch built in nowadays. You have Song of Stars. You just have units that have a lot of debuffs, period. Like I mentioned, Alexa, Terranor Guard. And you have the free Junkyard Dog, which you can get alongside Soul, I believe. I'll double check that for y'all. But Junkyard Dog should be a free artifact that if you really needed extra debuffs, you could go ahead and slap that on. So Baiken, second pick, just because of how important Banshee can be if you want to be a Banshee gamer. And she makes it the easiest, but there's other options. So she's not required either. And her artifact, guys, definitely you can skip as well. Torn Sleeve, don't need it. All right, last but not least, guys, let's go ahead and talk about Elphelt real fast. Elphelt is very, very niche for PvP. I know there are some cleavers that can make her look amazing, but if you guys are an up-and-coming cleaver, she's not the easiest to run. She also needs very good dedicated gear, like a lot of other units, but just don't think she's gonna, if you watch someone pop off with her, she's not like a premier cleaver. She's definitely viable, don't get me wrong, in the cleave role, but overall, is she must pull if you're limited on bookmarks? Not really, okay? If we're ignoring looks, not really the best at it, and her PvE usage is even more limited than the RTA or PvP side, which is primarily just cleaving. If you are a main cleaver and you think you can make great use of her kit, because it can be awesome, right? Setting up that sleep defense break and to increase attack is really, really fun. She looks good, but just keep in mind, she's definitely not a must-have besides the limited factor, and her niche playstyle plus lack of PvE makes me rank her 3rd. Okay, now let me go ahead and pull up her artifact. I'll have to find it real fast. I do own multiple copies of this, guys, and this is one I would definitely consider getting multiple copies of because it is extremely unique. Her artifact, Ms.Confille, is the only artifact in the game so far that provides a defense break. I believe to date, back then it was 100% true, and I'm pretty sure it's still true. No other artifact can provide a defense break like this, and it is extremely, extremely powerful for PvE content. It had some PvP applicability as well when Cerise was a mainstay, but now that units like Para kind of outplaced or meta crept Cerise out of there, there's not a ranger yet that really makes Ms.Confille shine like she used to. It could come back though. The fact that it was viable in RTA or very good in RTA at one point means it could come back. We just need the correct ranger to sort of be able to run it. But for now, it's still worth pulling for PvE, guys. Remember what I said about consistency? I run a copy of this in my Baiken Leo team. You can make Leo any other ranger, and the fact that you have an additional defense break, guys, means even when you miss those however many defense breaks you're bringing, you have another chance on an artifact. And a lot of times that artifact spot for those kind of setup units can be anything. You don't really have anything else to use, so Ms.Confille works very good in this spot, better than Song of Stars for certain areas. The defense break is huge. Abyss, Expeditions, it's insane. Make sure y'all pick up at least one copy, guys. This one more than the other two, 100%. Make sure you pick up at least one copy, if not two. That way you have this defense break artifact that'll be great in PvE and potentially super good for PvP again later down the line. All right, guys, so in closing, Dizzy #1 because she's great in PvE for new players especially and has some RTA potential still. Some players still say she can be amazing there. Baiken, almost no PvP real talk applicability. Every unit, I'm sure, guys, has been used somewhere, and if you want to use Baiken in PvP, I'm sure you can. You just need to make her very fast, but there's better options for that role. But for PvE, she is the queen of Banshee. Doesn't even come close. Her artifact, you can definitely skip. Dizzy's artifact, sorry, I skipped over it. You can definitely skip. Elphelt, if you're not a hardcore cleaver, and even if you are, there's other options, so research what other roles can fit in that Elphelt spot, because there's just way better things as a cleaver. But if you really like her, she's definitely solid enough to be used there. I know players that swear by her, and she's probably better than possibly both of these if you dedicate to a cleave style. Maybe not Dizzy, but can be very good for RTA, but no PvE applicability, and the fact that she's really only good in cleave means I rank her the lowest, but her artifact is the best. So Dizzy, top unit to pull. Baiken, second best unit to pull. Elphelt, third best unit to pull. But for artifacts, Dizzy is the worst. Baiken, second best artifact to pull. And Elphelt is the Elphelt's Ms.Confille artifact is the best. I'll put it on the screen. Sorry, that was a little bit confusing, but I'll just put them real fast. Which ones I think you should pull. Remember, if you can, guys, try to get lucky and summon all of them. But hopefully this will help you if you do have to make that hard decision. And I'm sorry, guys. Remember, the group banners are coming out as well, so you want to be very, very careful with your bookmarks, and you want to save enough for Jacko too, because I do think she will be the strongest of the three. Alrighty, guys, thank you so much for watching. I always say it's going to be brief, but we ended up going a little bit long again. I try to give y'all so much info. Apologies, but thank you for watching. Hopefully that helps a little bit. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace out, everybody.